Welcome back, guys, to another episode on Ghetto Kids Taking Over the World. This is episode 5, and we're going to dig into more of the NAIA college football, right? This is kind of more input on you guys who want to play college ball, even then to kind of get more in detail about what it takes, you know, what are some specifics as far as the positions. And I think it's just a great segue for you guys to just kind of get connected and get to know more. So today, we're with Josh Sybert. Josh Sybert. I cannot say it right, but Josh Sybert, he's a defensive coordinator here, also a strength and conditioning coach at Bethany College, which is NAIA. The conference is KCAC. It's a pretty great conference, really challenging. And yeah, so Josh, welcome.
Yeah, it's one of the best conferences in the NAIA, if you ask me.
One of the best, okay. So what, getting into this now, well, tell me a little bit about your history, right? Did you play college? Like, I know you mentioned you played pro indoor?
Semi-pro, we'll call it.
Semi-pro, okay. So tell me your journey on that.
Well, I'm from Kansas.
Okay.
I played for Lawrence High School, which is 6A high school football. It's like 2 hours east of here, closer to Kansas City. Really rich history at that school. I had a great head coach, a great defensive coordinator, who is probably my biggest influence now as far as how I played and how I coach, which I know is a question later.
Yeah.
But so that's where I got my start. And then, I played as young as I could be to play. Like third grade was the first year that I could play. And I was like waiting to be old enough to play. So always been my passion. But college ball, I played at Baker. And that's an NAIA team, also in East Kansas, same county that I grew up in actually. So a little bit of history to connect from Bethany to Baker. So Coach Grosner, the head coach here, he was my head coach at Baker. So Coach G recruited me to Baker.
Okay.
And Coach Holden was also on our team at Baker too. So yeah, we go back like 10 years.
Wow, so you guys actually knew each other before you coming in here.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's no coincidence that, I'm here working for Coach G.
Yeah.
Like he brought me here, so. But no, at Baker, we were dominant. I mean, we won the HAC 3 out of 4 years that I was there. I don't know how many games we lost. Like, I can count on one hand how many games we lost. Or maybe 2. It was six games or something like that in 4 years, not including playoffs. But we went to the national title game when I was a senior. That season we were 14-0 going into the title game.
Oh wow!
In Daytona Beach, lost to St. Francis of Indiana, which is still an NAIA powerhouse for football. That's really my high school and college background.
So how'd you get recruited?
How did I get recruited?
Yeah.
So the defensive coordinator at Baker, he used to be there, now he's not anymore, but his name is Jason Thorin.
Okay.
Under Coach Grosner, right?
Yeah.
He is from Lawrence. So he played for Lawrence High in the 90s. He recruited my older brother to Baker too. So my brother was on the team already at Baker when I was graduating high school. And so, Coach Thorin called me up, and Tabor came and talked to me at the time. I wasn't really interested in Tabor, and I knew that Baker was probably going to be an option. I actually didn't think I was going to play.
Really?
Like, I wanted to.
But you didn't think that was like a high, I'm going to go and play straight out?
Yeah, I just wasn't exactly sure. I mean, I was like every other 18-year-old in the world, like big decision to make, and I took all the way till like May.
Okay.
Until I finally decided that I was going to be just a student at KU, and then I was like, no, I want to keep playing. So I did. I went to Baker, and
Okay, so basically his personal connections all around. For
the most part.
And so the whole time you stayed in Kansas, like through your coaching career, right? Did you end up coaching somewhere else outside of Kansas?
So after Baker, I actually did a dual degree program. So I got a physics degree from Baker in 3 years, minor in math, and then I got a mechanical engineering degree at KU. That was the path that I wanted to take. My dad is a chemical engineer. My sister's an electrical engineer.
Oh, shit.
So you could say it runs in the family. I just said it really wasn't super passionate about it.
Okay.
I wanted to. My career path was, or the goal that I had in mind was, something to do with sustainability. Like I was passionate about whatever work I want to do, I want it to, help the future.
Like making more of a positive impact within.
Yeah, but like I'll give you an example of a job that I turned down. I was in like the second round of interviews for this job with a company that manufactured parts for like oil rigs, right? Which is like, I mean, it would have paid great, but ultimately I was like, this is kind of in the opposite direction of like what I want my work to do. It's like we're supposed to be getting away from non-renewable energy sources, right? So anyhow, I ended up turning that down because I wasn't compelled to do that. So I'll tell you about my graduate experience though. So actually, let's see, after Baker, like I was saying, I finished up at KU. I volunteer coached at Lawrence High.
Oh, so back at your high school.
It was my old head coaches last year, and Lawrence High and KU, they're both in Lawrence.
Yeah.
Right? So I was finishing my degree, volunteer coaching. I had 2 other jobs. One was an internship for engineering once again. But anyway, let's see. I took a full-time job in Missouri, so Southwest Missouri. You know Joplin?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So not far from Pitt State.
Okay.
Pitt State's on, in Pittsburgh. Joplin's just across the border there. I worked at a 3A high school. Now they're 4A. But this is a football program that had never won. Like, they were always bad. They'd never won a playoff game in their history.
Okay.
So, it was a team that needed some direction and some leadership, to rebuild. And so 2 years there, and I taught math.
Yeah, so you're
put that engineering degree to work.
I was going to ask you that. So throughout, like, in the beginning of it, it was just kind of just straight, like, teacher and then coaching right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was never the plan.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until after I got done playing and we lost that national championship game that I realized that I wanted to coach. I wish I would have realized that sooner. I would have probably done a different degree.
Yeah.
But, having that year of volunteer experience, and then the kids I coached were asking me if I was going to come back. So that really sent a message to me, like, I must be doing something right if
they're asking
they
for
want
you
me to come back.
Yeah.
So, that really got me thinking, like, this could be my calling. And so, 2 years teaching and coaching in high school. I ultimately felt like, as a teacher, I got 30 kids in a room, trying to reach every single one of them, where they're at, and it's near impossible. I mean, for even the best teachers to do, teachers with decades of experience. You either have to hold people back that are beyond the skill level or the knowledge level, or you spend all your time trying to pull other kids along that are slow, behind pace, right? And then you've got the ones that are all in the middle that are just
there.
So, and everybody knows, like, math is probably one of the most hated subjects, I would say. Like, if you ask a kid in high school, what's your least favorite subject?
They'll mostly say math.
The answer most of the time is math. Right? But anyway, that I loved it at times, because
just that connection you had with them, like connections for students and coach, like with the players, with the students in your class. I think that's more of a better thing out of that experience. It's like those connections.
Coaching and teaching are ultimately the same thing, or they should be. Like, a good coach is a good teacher, is the way I see it. So, like the same reasons that I love coaching are the same reasons I love teaching. But with teaching and the situation I was in, I felt like I had to get out because I was putting all this time into it and time away from work, and I still didn't feel like I was doing enough to help all those kids. So that weighed on me. So let's see. I applied for grad school in England. There's a whole other backstory I could get into as to why I chose England. Basically, Coach Grosner, he played some ball in Europe shortly after his college career was over. And so he still had a connection there to a guy whose name is Guy. His first name is Guy.
Guy.
Anyway, he ran a team in the East Midlands. I don't know if you're familiar with English geography, but London is south.
Yes.
It's roughly like a kind of a fat like circle, and then there's just like Scotland at the top, right? So you've got London, and London at the bottom. 2 hours north is the Midlands.
Okay.
So that's where we were. But anyway, no, I mean I call it semi-pro because it's adult football, but I was not being paid to play. No, I was there because I wanted to play still, and it was fun, you know.
So you went through a whole tryout and everything then?
Oh, I didn't try out.
Oh, so you just said come and play, and you just.
I was one of the best players on the team.
Oh, okay, my bad, Josh, my bad. I didn't know.
We're Americans, all right? I have no problem saying it. We were cheat codes over there, okay?
Oh my God.
From the IQ
point of it, yeah.
and the physicality, we play different. So anyway, no, I was doing a master's degree, right? 1 year master's degree. Energy and sustainable building design was my master's degree. So my next grand scheme of my career was going to be a building retrofitter in England. So they have this huge government mandate by 2050. They want to like totally retrofit all of their residential housing to be totally non-renewable energy source. As energy efficient as possible. So like all the proper insulation. A lot of buildings over there are made of brick. Brick is kind of mid-tier as far as like its thermal efficiency. Yeah, I'll say. As far as like letting it heat out or letting heat in. Yep. When you don't want it in, or letting it out when you don't want it out, right? So anyway, there's a lot of work to do there. So there's a lot of jobs.
So you chose that because that was like the only thing available, or was that just something you're like, okay, like I want to do it?
Well, I was really interested in like the building design aspect, and I learned a ton in that year. I hope to still use that at some point. I had a crazy wild idea that has no testing or hypothesis behind it yet, but the world's most sustainable gym at some point. That's my grand idea is to have a space where you can work out that's totally naturally ventilated.
Wow,
yeah, exactly how that looks. Yeah. I can't tell you right now, but it's been an idea for a while. Anyway, what I specifically studied was like I did a case study, if you will. Like there's 2 gyms at this university that I was at. So one of them's kind of a newer, bigger space. One of them's an older building, but it's a smaller space. So they're kind of contrasting styles, I guess. And so I had all this temperature data and all the energy data for both of those buildings for the last 4 years. So I had a shit ton of data to go off of as far as like how energy efficient those buildings were. But then I had a survey to ask, or for people to fill out. Anybody that used the gym could fill out the survey and basically just tell, like, there's this whole concept of like thermal comfort, which kind of sounds weird, but it's just like, how do you feel in this room right now?
I feel like at ease, like it's chill.
Like no sensation of like hot or cold.
Yeah, just right in the middle.
Maybe a little hot.
A little high, yeah.
Little high,
yeah,
right?
I was gonna say,
okay. So there's like, you would answer that as like a 1 on a scale of 3 to -3. Okay. -3 being like I'm freezing, 3 being like I'm burning up, 0 being like I feel nothing, right? Like I got little sweat beads going on, There's not really airflow in here. I'm not talking shit on your room.
I sit down.
This is just objectively how we feel, right? So we call it a 1 or maybe right, a 2. But anyway, that's like a scale that you would use to like ask people how they feel in the room. So anyway, the objective, would be to ultimately have a space where you're not feeling too hot or too cold, obviously, but that you can work out in. So
that was like your main.
Here's the deal. Sorry, you have to explain a little bit more. So here's the deal. Like the set point for a fitness space in the UK is like the guidelines are like 20 degrees Celsius. Do you know what that is in Fahrenheit? Roughly like 67, 68, like room temperature.
Oh, okay.
Like room temperature, right?
Okay.
So basically, the point of any graduate research is to like push the bubble of knowledge just a little bit, right? So you got to do a whole literature review of like what other people in this area have done with studies in the past, right? And you're not trying to come up with anything revolutionary, right? Which is what my advisor said to me, right? You're just trying to take what other people have already stated scientifically and maybe just take it a step further, but just barely, right?
Make it a little bit bigger with the necessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're a really good researcher, you can take multiple steps maybe over the course of your career with all of your different studies to actually then like advance the field, right? But anyway, I hadn't found any research on like any sort of studies like mine done in a place where like elite athletes are training.
Okay.
Right?
So you're starting something new. Or
Well, it was an idea I had that I hadn't
yeah.
found in research, so it felt, like I'd found that
little
vein where I could push the knowledge field a little bit. So like, let's say you're an elite athlete, and it was 2021, so it was about the same time as the World Cup that was in Qatar.
Yeah.
Which was like the hottest World Cup ever, right? I don't know if that's a fact, but Qatar, it was like 100.
Okay.
Some of the games there were like 112 degrees Fahrenheit.
It was kind of sad what happened over there because after the World Cup,
check me.
It
was the hottest.
He knows more. He definitely
Yeah.
He's deep in
Cheers.
In the winter because of how hot it was.
Yeah. Well, even then, like it was sad how they left it after. So I've seen those like clips and stuff on like TikTok how they left. Yeah, it was so sad.
So think about this: the guys that are training for that World Cup, right? It would be beneficial for them to train in a really hot environment to get used to that.
Yeah.
Right? So that's something to think about. Like, now you're taking my original idea and now it's kind of like ballooning into like, there could be this whole field of like spaces that are like designed specifically for the conditions of like what you're going to be
heading into
training in,
after.
right?
Oh, okay. So you're gonna adjust it due to what they're gonna expect to next. As a matter of fact, like you said, like if you're gonna get ready for guitar, and you're training somewhere else, like Scotland or else that's not really high heat and similar.
Russian, you're not used to that.
Yeah.
Right? Or
and able to be in that right. That's wow. I never really. Okay.
Something to think about.
So that's like your dream. Like at the end of the day, is to make gyms that have that.
Yeah, but so then the other thing you got to consider is like, okay, what about the everyday person that just goes to the gym, right? Like, what are their goals? Not everybody is like going there to like push it to their limit.
They're just staying in shape, right, for healthiness, just to be healthy.
And like some people honestly might not even want to like sweat when they're at the gym. I don't know.
Yeah.
People go for different reasons.
Yeah.
But there's all these factors that play into like, okay, what's the ideal temperature gonna be? There's this other whole concept of like, I mentioned that we don't really feel any airflow in this room, right?
Yeah.
So like, if it's I don't know, right now outside it's what 45, and it's really calm outside, so it feels nice. The sun's out. If it was really windy, right, we would feel colder.
Yeah.
Right. So like airflow is a whole nother factor as far as like how, your comfort in a space. So my whole idea behind the world's most sustainable gym is like, if you can somehow harness like a windy environment and say it's like a tunnel of some sort. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how long or what the dimensions are, but if there's already wind blowing and you can like maybe use some fans to assist that air, so it's like all blowing one way.
Yeah.
And if the fans are like solar powered, then it's like, zero carbon footprint, essentially.
You're making me think now, Josh. You're making me think now. You're making me think heavy right now.
I thought about this for a whole year.
I can tell.
But I haven't talked about it in so long. So no, I'm glad that we got into it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because now you're making me think. Now, well, first of all, you kind of shit on my rooms, which I appreciate that. It's something I think I got to add more fans, and then that's kind of
just
crazy.
one will do wonders.
At this point, I might just break a window and just see what happens. That was that a little bit too far. Wow. So, not to like switch gears on that, but as far as, so you played at 6A or 5A, right? 6A you
6A,
said?
yeah.
And then you went to play for Baker. And then from there, you went straight to get your master's degree.
No, from Baker, I went to KU.
Okay, you.
Sorry, we took steps back and forth.
Yeah, I was like...
Yeah, it was Lawrence High to Baker, back to KU,
Yep.
and then as I finished KU, I started coaching at Lawrence, and then I moved to Missouri.
And then you played.
2 years coaching there full time and teaching, and then from there I moved to Europe.
How many years did you stay out there?
For 15 months I was in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah. So after I did my master's degree, I started coaching the football team there, and I actually played for that team while I was doing my master's. So it's college. American college football in England is different. Like, obviously, rugby and football. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You don't have to specify which football.
Yeah.
There. And I should switch those. Football and rugby are the two main sports, obviously, in that country. And so those have like the school I was at. There was like 7 football teams, 7 rugby teams. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's in De Montfort University is what it's called. It's right in the middle of Leicester, which is spelled like Leicester. They're the Foxes.
Yeah.
You know that team.
Leicester City.
I live probably a mile from King Power Stadium. So yeah, I used to jog by it. But anyway,
That's pretty sick.
where was I going with that?
So you coached there. So you coached there right after you played with them.
Yeah.
And then
I was talking about the difference in the sports.
Yeah.
So yeah, like American college football there is like, I mean, it's a second tier sport. So a lot of the football and rugby rejects are kids that want to play football. Doesn't mean they're bad athletes. It just means it's so competitive.
there that they just couldn't make
that.
Yeah, they couldn't make the final cut.
Those two sports being on like a worldwide stage, I mean, the competition is insane to be one of the best in those sports.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Do you feel like
they
there's
don't
like
have like eligibility.
Yeah.
So as long as you're enrolled in anything at the college, you could
go
play on
play
that team.
whatever, maybe.
You could be 40 years old taking a night class, and you could play for the team.
That is great. What's the oldest player you ever played against?
There was like a 36-year-old center on one of the teams we played. They were horrible, but
But the age is fucking insane. Jesus.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Kiel Crusaders, if anybody's watching this.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So
shit.
on there then, so you played against, international players. You played with, of course, American players. Do you think that, it can get bigger in England? Do you believe, like, after experience it there?
And it will continue to.
Okay.
My sport's still growing around the world, which is awesome, I think a lot of American kids don't realize just how many opportunities there are to play outside of the NFL, the UFL now, the kind of minor league, I guess. They know about Canadian football, but like I feel like people don't even know there's a good quality league in Mexico. There's a decent quality league in Brazil. One of our former Baker guys played there. There's leagues all over Europe. There's a league that's kind of almost on par. I'd say maybe a step down from the Canadian league. That is the European League, and they have like 16 teams now across Europe. Yeah.
No, well, so damn, I didn't know it's that big as far as internationally, as far as sports goes. Like, because, like I said, I think, as for me, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know it was going into it in Brazil. I didn't know it was going. I knew there were some teams in England for sure, but as fact is like,
but
I guess
they're not. So England is like the only country in Europe that's not involved in that European league. So it's weird. It stresses me out too because
the
they like
possibilities
hamstring their own development.
Okay.
Because they want to keep all of the coaching jobs in that country for themselves. They don't want to let Americans come in and
kind of just
like grow the sport for them, right?
So kind of don't want to make it within England bound, like everything started. Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean that's why our league doesn't have like contracts. You know, I mean, one of my friends that played with me there, an American guy that I met in England, he ended up signing with a team in Germany in the European League while we were there. hell of a player. You might have known him. He was actually working here for 5 months. Dante
Dante.
Van de Ven. Coach V.
When did he? I feel like I know him, Dante, because I came in.
It was early on.
I came in 2022.
When you started, if at all, might have been before you started, but.
Was he here around 2022? That's when I came in.
No, it was 2024. This time last year. This time last year he was helping us coach. But anyhow,
yeah,
he was a freaking good player. Played at the NAIA level for Central Methodist. And then,
I think I know what you're talking about. Because didn't him and Trevor used to hang out a lot too? Because I think I know him because I think he also gets a haircut from Adrian. But yeah, I think I know which one guy you're talking about.
But he signed a contract with the German team and played quarterback for him for half a season.
Oh yeah, it's on his Instagram page.
Yes,
I seen that. Yeah, okay.
Surge.
Yeah. Yep. Damn.
So, but yeah, that's just one example. I mean, call it a paid vacation. He got to live there basically cost free and play football.
Play what he loved to do. Damn, that's kind of a dream for, a lot of athletes now. It's like going somewhere else and experiencing, playing against different players. So it's huge.
And when you're 25, 26, 27, why not do that?
Yeah.
Especially
after around that is kind of your peak to even keep doing that. Yeah. That's where it's like, yeah.
And you got your whole life to do your career, and not to mention connections you make in other countries. It's kind of a dream of mine eventually, maybe to go back to England and take a team and actually do my goal was to take the DMU De Montfort team and really grow that program. They had a really good British head coach there for 7 years, and my first year there was his last year there. He is the best British American football coach that I met while I was there. Probably the best British-born quarterback I've ever seen. He taught me how to play quarterback.
No shit.
I never played quarterback in my life, but I played for that team because obviously I had the IQ. I could make reads and distribute the ball, and I could run the ball. So yeah, he taught me how to play quarterback, and he's a great coach. But anyway, he got tired of the lack of support from their their athletic department.
Yeah,
they don't really have much of an athletic department. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I got an athletic scholarship there to play while I was doing my master's. It was partial; it wasn't a full ride. But yeah, that experience was awesome. But I was the first American that had gone to that school and gotten a American football scholarship there.
Holy shit!
I was also the last.
Big. Yeah, that was, damn.
They just stopped doing it.
Do you know why, or is it because
for all sports they stopped giving scholarships? Yeah, they're our focus is shifting from competition or competitiveness.
Yeah,
I can't remember which word they used, but they were basically saying we're just going to be a participation school now.
That kind of ruins the whole purpose of. I guess I don't know. For me, as being competitive,
super soft.
Yeah, I was kind of sounds a little bit of here you go for trying.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I wanted to really build that team up and maybe continue to bring more Americans over. There are certain schools in England, the University of Nottingham, which they say Nottingham. Nottingham. We would say Nottingham, and they would make fun of us for it. That school, and there's University of West England, which is in Bristol.
Okay.
Those two are the premier American football clubs in college, at least.
Those are the top ones. Holy shit.
Yeah, UWE has. I want to say last I knew they had at least a dozen Americans on their team. Yeah. And we met some of those guys from that team. They played with us on that semi-pro team. We had 6 Americans on our team. We weren't the best team. We probably should have won the whole thing, but I don't know. Throw the film on, see what we think.
Throw some highlights on there.
We should have won it all, but we got beat by a Scottish team.
Oh,
those
shit.
Scottish guys, man, they're tough. They're tougher than a lot of the British dudes we faced.
I was gonna say, I think within that, it just sounds like you had a huge experience. You had a huge experience playing internationally, great connections, and as far as shifting gears here,
I could talk about England all day, man.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a whole other lifetime away. But.
We're gonna get into the coaching journey and the coaching philosophy. Okay, so first question I have for you is that how would you describe your coaching philosophy? Right, like what is kind of your has it changed over the years? How did it change, and how it is now? Like how do you see your coaching philosophy?
I've always wanted to build instincts in the players that I coach. I ultimately feel like they're going to have to make decisions on their own, on the fly, right? So they're going to have to kind of become independent thinkers. Like, have you ever played football?
Not like college or anything like that, but I play for fun. Like not anything like.
You never played in like an organized game though?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's different in the aspect of like the plays, right? There's frequent stoppage, right? Whereas your sport is continuous. I don't know how much like feedback do you get from your coach like during the game?
I mean, if you're in the game playing, he would usually yell like keywords like, man on, turn, or he would even give us numbers to switch positions.
But like, are you like listening for that actively?
Me personally, no, like not actively, because I think it's kind of, you mentioned like in the game, it's like I'm focused on this. I can't.
So you
really
never hear that sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I just,
Right. So you're pretty much out there on your own for a long period of time. So yeah, I mean, between every play, they're looking at me to make a call to set them in a defense, right? So yeah, I mean, I obviously can put them in a good position or a bad position based on my call.
Yeah.
But that's just how we're lined up.
Yeah.
Before the snap of the ball. From then on, it's
all on them.
Yeah. You got to make your read and find the ball and make a play. So there's this give and take as far as like how much of the success is from the coach and how much of the success is from the player, right? Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, in my opinion, more of it, the majority of it is on the player, right?
Now you can teach them so much, but like I said, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are making the final decision. They're the ones that's going to decide to step in, step out. So yeah.
So yeah, my philosophy is that like I try not to have any sort of ego. Like I tell them all the time that my purpose is to be a guide and to be a teacher. And then I have to evaluate what happened and make corrections as we go.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I want them to learn instincts and ultimately be able to kind of coach themselves, right? That's when I think we'll be the most efficient. So then I can really just focus on what are the calls I need to make. But the other thing about it too, with what my job entails is like there's so much preparation that goes into it with film. So every team has like some pretty clear tendencies on offense as far as what they want, how they want to attack. So that informs more of my decision making than anything. Is like what are they trying to do? So
what do they see that you don't see, or what do you see that they don't see?
Yeah,
it's kind of like in that mindset in a way.
Yeah. So how can I be a step ahead of them, or how can I attack them in a way that they're vulnerable?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And within NAIA
did I
football.
answer the question?
Yes, okay. You kind of did. Yeah. Within your experience being the coach in NAIA football, what is some big difference compared to other levels, right? Of course, not really with D1. I mean, so many differences. But as far as like JUCO, even maybe D2, D3, what's kind of the difference within all those that you believe that is NAIA kind of better than JUCO to start off with, or you know what I mean? Like, how do you see the difference in that?
I was thinking about how I was going to answer this when I read that. My first answer is that I don't have firsthand experience at a JUCO or a D2 or a D1 or even a D3. Like I played for an NAIA team, now I coach for an NAIA team. So ultimately, I can only say from the outside looking in. But I think the NAIA level is still kind of pure in a way. Yeah, because if you're playing for an NAIA team, like you're not involved in NIL
Yeah.
or
Which is like the big,
whatever the pressures are that are now evolving at the top level, like we're so far removed from that. So I don't know if I ever really want like a big time D1 job like that. Not that I'm afraid of the pressure or anything, but it's
so much more little things to.
Well, it's more about like how much are you going to pay me, not how are you going to help me develop as a player.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what recruiting should be.
Yeah.
Is like, I have this track record of developing players and, winning games and making teams better. Doesn't matter how much I'm going to pay you. You know what I mean?
All that matters is that you trust me making you better when you get here.
Yeah. Now, obviously, like, the cost of school is a factor.
Yeah.
But, so I think from that aspect, like, NAIA is still kind of like the pure college football experience. Now with JUCO, going into a JUCO that you're going to leave in a relatively short period of time, right? So, you don't get a great like team experience there. Now again, I haven't been at one, but
just from
it's
like
different
the
than
outside
being
perspective.
at a 4-year school.
Yeah.
And I think D2. I doubt there's much money going around as far as paying $1 million to the best player at a D2. I don't know, but I doubt that there's that much pressure like at the D1 level right now. And obviously, it depends which D1 you're at. There's FCS and FBS D1 schools, so it's interesting to think about how that's all going to trickle down, if it's going to end up affecting NAIA at some point. I really have no idea.
Yeah. That's the scary part, right? To see what's next, and that's like, again, like you said, like as far as again outside perspective in it, it's like of course there's a lot of differences, but I think on a coaching staff matter, like I said, it's definitely more either rules. There's more like little details, I guess, the higher up you go in the coaching like level in it. That I think you make a good point. Like NAIA, you don't really have that much pressure, that much of like, am I following the rules right? Because NAIA, for those of you that don't know, it's like it has rules, but there's
the recruiting rules are basically none.
Yeah,
compared
like,
to in CAA.
Yeah, because the rules are pretty ridiculous.
Like periods where they can communicate
with the players. Yeah, I can never imagine that. That's too much. Now getting into the recruiting side, right?
Yeah.
So what qualities do you look for, in a recruit beyond athletic ability?
Coach G says all the time, we want to recruit guys that love football. There's a lot more demands at the college level of not only your time, but just your overall effort level. It's going to be so much more competitive than your high school team was, right? So, we use this analogy a lot of like kids that maybe were a big fish in a small pond come to college, and now you're a medium-sized fish in a big pond with other medium and big fish, right?
It's like a big reality hit when they come here. It's like, okay, you did good in your high school, but here it's fucking not high school no more.
So you gotta be able to embrace that and not fold and shy away from that. Like some kids don't really want to compete. They don't want to go to a place where there's 5 other dudes at their position. Yeah. They want to go somewhere where they can be guaranteed, like, oh, here you're gonna play. You're not gonna have to worry about
here's playing time. Here's a starting position.
You for your job or anything. But
And how can you tell from the player? Like you said, like passion for football, like the love of the game. How do you?
That's a great question.
How do you see that?
That is a great question.
Because that's what I think. Looking into players, and I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but as the generation goes, in my opinion, when it comes to even soccer, different sports, it's like I see less and less passion. Like it's hard for me to actually look at a player and be like, okay, like you'll die for this sport. Not like literally, right? But as far as, the concept of like, you can go and give it all because you love the sport of it, right? Yeah. So how do you
can see it when you watch somebody, right? And it's probably no different. You can see them going balls to the wall. Yeah. Right? And just busting ass. You can see it on film, first off. You can hear it in somebody's voice too. like gratitude, you know. Some kids that I talk to are like, oh man, coach, I can't believe, you know, that you gave me this opportunity. Like, I'm so grateful. You know, it doesn't have to sound like that.
Yeah, but you know, like
there
within.
there are other kids that are just, you know, it's like, do you care that I'm reaching out to talk to you? You know,
Do you know, like a coach is trying to recruit you? You
Yeah.
know,
like, I picked you. Come on, be excited about it, or, you know, show me something.
something.
So, I don't know. Yeah, you can hear it, you can see it.
And what advice would you give to those who are playing in high school and who are ever, you know, that are trying to get to playing NAIA college? Like, what advice would you give them?
Make a Twitter, make a huddle, get your film updated. If you don't have film, you can always record yourself doing some drills and whatnot. I would say also, like, get on. So there's special teams in football. There's offense, there's defense, and then there's like kickoffs, punts, and stuff, right? Like, get on, ask your coach, or earn a job on your special teams unit, and then, like, don't be afraid to put those clips in your highlight too. I think a lot of kids might skip over those, but like, you can get a role as a freshman on a, you know, being a long snapper or being a kicker or whatever, or just being a guy on the kickoff team or the punt team, whatever. And then you can just getting to college to do that, and then you can make a play, making a good tackle on a kickoff or something. Oh, okay, that kid can tackle. Maybe he can play linebacker.
Yeah.
So
kind of like whatever you have.
Like, don't overlook anything you've done on film, even if it's just kicking a ball or snapping a ball or making a play on special teams.
And like, this is kind of an add-on question on that. You know, you bring up Twitter, right? So how important
That's the easiest way
it?
to communicate with coach,
Really?
I think.
Okay. For you personally as well? Like,
Yeah.
Is that where you kind of do most of your recruiting on there? Not most of it, but is that one key factor of your recruiting process?
Well, for one, I like that there's like a little picture next to the name of like who I'm messaging, right? So I can, like, it's just quicker and easier to see who it is. But also, like, my email inbox gets deep. My phone, I need to get a second phone for recruiting.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, if I give out my personal number, then a text from a recruit gets lost in my personal
Whole
inbox
thing,
too.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, Twitter for me is easier.
And what are some advice you would give to the players when they head into, you know, because now, again, I think it's a generation thing. People, like, the kids are getting more on it, more on everything. So what's your advice to them as far as, you know, how careful should they be on that? Like, is that something college coaches definitely look at, or if they have time where they look at it, right? Like, how do you feel about that?
How careful should they be?
Yeah. Do you think that's
On
kind of
Twitter?
on any Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, like all these platforms that they have now?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's like some fake accounts that can like talk to you about making an offer. I mean, obviously, like, try to set up a call with that coach. You know, see if they're interested to call you. Then you can probably find out if they're fake or not. You know, do a little bit of research. I mean, ask. You could always ask your coach for help, like your high school coach for help. You know, they should either the head coach or they should have like a recruiting coordinator. Some teams do. You know, just also like reach out to schools in your area. You know, a lot of them are probably going to want to bring in local players, and they might not have seen your school yet, or for whatever reason, you might just be overlooked, and it's not because you're not good enough. It's just that, like, nobody's seen you yet.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about Twitter. You know, as soon as one coach follows you, that coach has a whole, you know, tree of connections that, like, now the algorithm might show you on another coach's page.
Yeah.
But so, now with that, I will say this, like, you can get some like disingenuous offers. Like,
Okay.
I'm not going to name any names, but I think that there's competitors that we face that kind of just like shotgun blast offers, like through email.
Oh wow!
You know
So you
what I
just literally say like, "This is a number to give me," and wait for them to respond.
Right, and just kind of like chucking a line out there and seeing who bites. Almost, you know, and so I would caution kids from those situations where, like, can you decipher if that email is just like copy and pasted, or did that coach like type it out personally to you? You know what I mean?
So kind of pay attention to within detail of the message.
Yeah, you don't want to just go somewhere where you're just going to be a number on a roster. You want to go somewhere that the coach actually sees a fit for you, you know, and they're like genuinely interested to bring you to the school. So yeah, that's how any kid I reach out to nowadays, and even when I started, you know, it's always going to be a personal message. You know, if we can get them on campus, I love to do visits.
Yeah.
I want to meet them one-on-one. And there's other schools I know in our conference that will do visits with like 30 people at a time and just like walk them around campus. They never get to meet the head coach. You know, it's like
that's kind of like
nobody talked to me this whole time. Why do I want to be here?
Yeah,
you know?
especially not the individual attention, and there's so many key factors within the visit and recruiting.
So pay attention to that stuff if you do go on visits. I think going on visits is a crucial step in the process. There's a lot of kids that come from out of state, even here, you know, that never visited. I don't know what the number is, but there's a good chunk of them that have ended up leaving. Now, I don't think it's because they didn't necessarily like it here. It could be any reason. A lot of times there's financial reasons involved too, but like that's part of it, is going to see the place and getting a vibe for how the people are on the campus. You'll gravitate towards the right place.
Especially if you meet the players and except the coaches, the head coach, you'll definitely understand where you're at as far as the importance of like if you actually are cared for, they even know who you are. Does the head coach even know who you are? So that's a good point. That's a really good point. That's a good thing that, you know, as far as all you guys, pay attention to that. I think that's big if you're trying to get into the NAIA level. I feel like you'll definitely see more attention pointed to you. And even then, I think, like you said, it's important to make sure you feel wanted instead of just like another number there. And now getting into, you know, how do you develop the players on and off the field, or, you know, how do you kind of maintain it as well? Do you kind of always on them, you know, as far as, let's say with the classes, do you kind of check up on them a lot, or with the weight sessions, you know, after weight sessions, do you like to talk to them after? You know what I mean? So how do you develop that?
We're talking about developing like relationship. Or
relationship with the players.
Yeah, I mean, it's careful attention every day. It's hard to keep a strong bond with everybody because you know right now we have about 70 dudes on our roster. By the time we get to August, we'll have 130. So it's tough, but yeah, I mean, you asked about grades. I mean, we get a grade report every 2 weeks or so, you know, and so when I see a guy, I'll ask him like, hey, just show me real quick how that class is coming, you know, and whatnot. I used to be a teacher. I know,
you know,
check
you know
the
the
grade
back
book
end
and
of it.
see, you know, what can you do to get your grade up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as building the relationship, it's like just knowing kind of the background, where the kid came from, you know, asking them questions about like their family, you know, what they do in their free time, you know, what they want to do on campus here, what their goals are.
So you kind of take away your time just to be like, hey, like, let's talk, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what actually is your plan, see if you can guide in the right direction. That's good.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not always the greatest at it, but I try. I do put effort in.
And I think that's the most important thing as far as, you know, those who are looking to play again, you know, college football. I think it's important to know that you got to have coaches that care, and even on top of that, it's like who's actually going to take their time to be there. Like I said, I think being there is a big, easy thing to do, but many people see it as a very hard thing to do, which is kind of weird to me when I see that sometimes. But I think, you know, on top of that, a big thing which I, every time, you guys don't know, we also work at the same school, but every time I walk by to the weight session, I think the amount of players that give you that initial respect as far as, of course, giving you attention, all that stuff, but during the lifting weights, I can just kind of see you there when I walk by, just really paying attention to each player. Like, I think you as the coach, when I see that in you, it's like, wow, like, this is a guy that's actually going to see if you do the right form. I see if you're actually doing the max weight that you can push this out. So I think...
No, the physical development, I mean, I'm responsible for our whole team as far as that goes. So I pay attention to every guy in the room that comes through the room. And the other good thing about it is we have 4 different rack coaches in there. So You know, Coach Holden,
Yes,
Coach Clatterbuck, who played for us last year. His the son Clatterbuck, and then Josiah Hardrick, who's now a coach too. So, like, there's 9 to 12 guys that we're all watching at once, which is a pretty good ratio, I think. So everybody's getting hands-on attention. But then I do kind of float around, and so I get an eye on everybody at some point. So I know what everybody's strengths and weaknesses are on our team as far as the physical.
Yeah, the physical aspect of it.
But yeah, like there's still some guys who I'm really getting to know because, like, especially like offensive side, you know. I mean, I know all the defensive guys by now.
As far as like the other positions, you definitely try to recognize more.
Yeah, well, I'm coaching the defensive guys every day, whereas the offensive guys, you know, I'm still getting to meet those guys, some of them.
Yeah.
But, like, I know who they are that I need to go talk to more. But the other thing I wanted to say was, like, you know, we're super busy, obviously, as coaches. But sometimes, you know, if a player would, like, if they're in need of something and they really need guidance or anything, like, some of them I feel like are just too afraid to come and ask for it, for help.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, even like, you know, if it's a kid in high school watching this and you think your head coach is too busy to talk to you, like, you might just try and go ask him if he has time.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like, if a kid on our team asked me, like, hey, coach, I really just need to talk about something, like, of course I would,
But then
I would drop what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And now getting into, you know, the team culture and game preparation. So, well, even before I ask that, what are your top 3 exercises that a defensive player should do in the gym?
Well, we do power cleans.
Okay.
Like the overall theme, I suppose, is the ability to generate force quickly.
Okay.
So that's going to help you obviously speed up, but also slow down, right? So, like, when you have to stop and change direction, like, you have to exert a lot of force quickly in a focused spot and then redirect back the other way, right? So, you know, power clean obviously is like one of the biggest lifts that you can do to generate like a maximal effort force in a concentrated direction, right? Something that Coach Holden has implemented recently that I love is a death jump. So basically falling off of something and like catching yourself in an athletic position, right? That's simulating like when you need to make a cut and you stop and you're on like a planted leg, right? So that's another one just off the top of my head. There's all different things that go into like doing a power clean, like different pieces of the technique that we do as well. So I'll try to avoid any of those. Trying to think of a third one for you that's like, you know.
I know it's a curveball. I know,
quintessential.
because I know there's a lot of course, like main
I'll
ones.
say, I mean, upper body strength is pretty crucial for football too. So I'll say a bench press of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw you a little curveball there.
Like the depth jump, let's call that a category of plyometrics.
Okay.
Because there's a bunch of different things I could talk about in there. The power clean, right? There's all sorts of different like power movements we can talk about in there. But those are both going to also train some lower body muscle groups, right? So then let's get in the
upper body
too.
one. That's
So that kind of covers
pretty much easy. Yeah. So, and two, you know, how do you build and maintain a team culture within your program?
Oh my goodness, that is such a big question.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
how do you build and maintain a culture? You have to set some standards early on.
Okay.
Like some non-negotiables as a coach. So, you know, something I do, or something I did last year at the start of our fall camp was like I had a team dinner, or not, it was a D-line dinner for my position group, right? 20 guys. And I just laid everything out there as far as, you know, what I told you about kind of my approach, my philosophy. I'm here to be a guide and a teacher. You know, we talk about how this is an ultra competitive environment. Our coaching staff is committed to turning the program around, so that ultimately means we need to win. So the best players are going to play, right? something I talked about with them was trust. Guys that I trust to not only execute their assignment, but also to give their best effort all the time. Guys that I can trust to do those two things are maybe going to get more opportunities, right? When I don't know necessarily who's the best choice, I might choose the guy that goes a little bit harder and shows up on time all the time. You know what I mean? As compared to somebody who doesn't. That might be of equal skill, right? So I talk about that in the fact that one of those important factors for me in choosing who gets to play is trust. And sometimes I think players see that as like favoritism, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like I don't care who you are.
No. You care about what they're doing for the team.
See, and that sounded bad. It's not that I don't care.
No.
It's like it matters not who the person is that is vying for this job or this position, right? What does matter is, can I trust them? That's how I should say it.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care.
Yeah.
It matters not.
I was on the same page with you. I was on the page with you.
Yeah,
I understand. Okay. And so, now talk to me through a typical week in preseason for you, right? So you say you have the team dinner, team talk with your defensive team. So what's next after that? Like what's your week like in preseason?
In the preseason, so they show up in the first week of August. We have a team meeting that first night. We do a conditioning test the next day, and they do a lighter lift, and then we get into practice that first week, 2-a-days.
Okay.
So that week is really intensive on installing our plays. So we'll have some meetings where I'll have a slideshow. We'll talk about like kind of our basic defense that we can run all the time, and then we go from there. We go into practice. We obviously practice some technique things. We go against the offense, and they start to learn it, and you just repetition.
Okay. And so now, getting into the future of NAIA football, right? So now, how do you see NAIA evolving within the next 5 to 10 years? Or do you see it kind of staying the same?
Again, with all the stuff going on at D1, it's hard to say. I will say like a recent change has been like the playoff system for the football. So they went from a 16-team playoff to a 20-team playoff. I don't know if that's going to continue to expand. I think there's about 100 football teams in NAIA. So if there's 20 teams that get in, that's like 1 out of every 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's more teams that like. Maybe there's like some more like FCS Division I teams that become D2. Maybe there's some more D2s that become NAIA. I don't know. So maybe if NAIA does expand, or more colleges pop up because there's more money going through college sports, I don't know. Then it could expand. But hard to say.
Yeah. So now, getting into...
Sorry, I had another thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that question. The other part of it too that I think is maybe more imminent is like education is going to change with AI. So like, I don't know what like a public college or even like a private college is going to look like. Because like teachers could be wiped out, or like a number of teachers could be wiped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like definitely the amount of teachers available on campus might reduce for sure.
Yeah, so
which is kind of sad.
I have no clue like how that could impact things at all. And like high school education could look a lot different. Like K through 12 education, could look a lot different with AI too. So and who knows, man?
On top of what are some misconceptions about NAIA have you heard?
I think it's mainly the quality of play.
Okay.
Like people that haven't experienced NAIA kind of look down on it. But if they would come to a practice or play with us, like you realize like there's some really, really good athletes here. There's also some some really, really like big athletic players that, you know, maybe there's one thing off about them that like a D2 coach passed up on or whatever. Yeah. But if they can find the right fit at NAIA, like there are NAIA players that have played in the NFL. There are NAIA coaches that have gone on to, the Alabama coach currently used to coach for Wisconsin Whitewater, I believe, which is now D3, but used to be NAIA at the time. So yeah, it's like there's high quality people at this level too, both coaches and players. At the end of the day, any college athletics is like a pretty good standard of competition, in my opinion. Now, yeah, like Division I's the best, but it's not like the difference. I feel like there's some high school athletes or people that don't know NAI that look at it as like a 6A high school versus a 5A high school versus a 4A, 3A, and we're like 1A, 2A high school competition. It's not that.
Yeah, it's way more different than definitely, because like you said, I think there's a lot of D2s, D3s like that definitely pass up on good players that end up playing NAI, and they're just, they're dogs. Like they're actually make it more competitive, or if not, they even get a reality check like, well, why am I going for D2 when I can't even be better than NAI? Yeah. So I think for as far as like my favorite moments is like whenever I recruit a player and they go like, I want to go D1. It's like, okay, well, come join us for practice and let's see if I'm gonna look at you like a D1 player or look at you like I think you're tripping the whole time. Yeah. So now on top of that, what are your kind of, we went over your gym dream. We went over a lot of engineering stuff in the beginning. So now for you, what's your best memory as a coach that you have?
The first one that came to my mind was, I mentioned that high school job I had. The team there had never won a high school playoff game. So the way that Missouri high school ball works is that it's different from Kansas. In Kansas, every team makes the state playoffs. Okay. Now, like if you are a bottom team, you're gonna play the best team, and you're gonna lose in that first round. Yeah. But so in Missouri, and Kansas used to do it this way. There's district play. Okay. So every team has a district game at the end of their regular season. Okay. Am I saying this right? Yeah. There's a district championship before the state bracket, if that makes sense. So like Missouri has 8 districts for each class, and then the district champions go on to an 8-man state bracket. So it's kind of different. Okay. But this team I used to coach for had never won even the first round of districts, and we did that my second year there. So that was like history in the making. And
how'd you feel? Were you like emotional? Were you like, oof? Like,
well, yeah. Just like the players were like so elated from it, and seeing that, like, gave me butterflies, for lack of a better term. And like, I'll never forget like looking up and seeing like they were like shooting fireworks in the sky and stuff. I was like, man, this is so cool.
Damn, that's sick.
I had a similar feeling when we finally won a game here. When we beat Tabor in 2023. You know the story. It had been like 1,000 days since Bethany football had won a game.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It has been a minute. And we
finally did, man. And I'll never forget like Connor Pioma. I don't know if you knew him, the Hawaiian kid that played for us.
I think so. Yeah.
He had like a water bottle, and he's like spraying it like it's a champagne bottle, like we won the Super Bowl or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I think I had him on some kind of social media, and I think I seen that you guys just went crazy in the locker room. And I think that's a big moment as far as the coaching staff. It's like knowing that like we did this, like we, of course, like the team did it together 100%, but it's like knowing that guys, like it's possible. Yeah. Like, we're the ones doing it. We're the ones that, it's possible. It's possible. So I can't imagine the feeling you have had in that locker room with the guys, and I'm pretty sure you're also jumping with them. Like,
yeah. Now it's short-lived because then we just had to play another game the next week and we lost.
But
that night it was great.
And so now, as we get to almost the end of this podcast, what is kind of your last advice to those, as far as, again, those athletes that want to try to make, if they can't play college ball, right, if they're unable to, because again, you know, and we had a discussion before this about the meaning of the podcast, right, like the target that it goes to. What's kind of something you would want to tell those kids that's like, hey, like I said, if you don't have film, you know, do this, you know, include drills, but what's kind of your main message to them? You know, to those ghetto kids, you know, to those kids that don't have a lot of opportunity to show off their skills in front of coaches, you know, but what's one thing you definitely would want to say to them?
Make the most of what you've got. So, I mean, let's say it's somebody who, hopefully it's somebody who's a sophomore or a freshman that has time to like develop or you know, put some time in to see some results, right? If you're a senior, it's too late.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Just be honest with you, bro.
Not too late to, you know, find a path in life and you know, make a successful future for yourself. That's not too late. But like athletics wise, if that's how you want me to frame it. Yeah, like if you're a freshman or sophomore and you know, you have to make the most of it. Like every day you have to have goals as far as how you're going to train, how you're going to eat, you know, and obviously academics. Like, shoot, kids don't realize if you have a 4.0 GPA, you're going to get a great scholarship wherever you want to go.
You're going to get a good
wherever
offer.
You want to go, you're going to get money
offer
to go there. So don't fuck off your classes. Like,
yeah, literally,
serious.
yeah, like show up to your class.
High school is, I mean, it's as hard as you want it to be, right? You could take the AP class if you're ambitious about something, but just go to your class and
just
like,
show
turn
up.
your assignments
Literally just show up.
And don't burn bridges. You know, don't mouth off to your teacher. Like they're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt at some point if you've been actively participating in the class and you need 1% or whatever, they might give you the extra credit or give you an opportunity to get your grade up. You know what I mean? If you're right on the cusp, like, so yeah, it's just about like making a choice at some point that you're going to be focused on the long term. Like if you're a sophomore, you got 2 years to develop. Don't wait for somebody else to give you the roadmap. Like, shoot, these kids these days have all the, you know, internet at their fingertips, so like you can just do some research and figure out how to do stuff. Right?
Yeah, they definitely had it way more easier than it was back then.
So that's kind of what I would say. I wish I could go back and, you know, tell myself that same thing.
Yeah, that was my next question to you. Like, what would you want to tell yourself, you know, in the beginning of your process, starting to look for college soccer? What would you tell yourself now?
Yeah, like, well, first off, I didn't really get to play much varsity until I was a senior.
Okay.
We had a good team, you know, and I played both ways, but both my positions on offense and defense had a senior starting ahead of me when I was a junior. So, you know, I didn't have a ton of film. I also didn't spend time putting together a highlight tape. I could have. But I guess I just didn't understand, like, how the process went. I assumed that, like, okay, if I play decent, somebody will want to
someone will come watch me,
right. But no, like, you have to recruit yourself a little bit, and you know, just putting together a highlight tape and sending it in an email to some coaches is gonna give you a shot. Or if you make Twitter, I'm telling you, I think that's an easier way nowadays, because you can look someone up on Twitter, a coach, and follow them. And, you know, if you just have some good details in your bio and a good picture of you, like, they might click on it, you know.
And definitely make it professional. Try not to half-ass text it. Don't just act like it's one of your homies, one of your buddies. It's like, hey, coach, look at this film. It's like, well, introduce yourself. Include anything that they need, like GPA and stuff like that's really important. So, you know, Coach, again, thank you so much for being in this podcast. I was very happy we were able to do this. For you guys that don't know, it took us like a week to find some time to do this, but I'm glad we were able to do it. And again, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate you. Appreciate giving advice to these kids, to advice to those people even thinking about transferring to NAIA. I think it was good information for you guys to have. Now, how we end our podcast here, Josh, which I kind of told him before, so he kind of knew, but you're going to sign off on our flag, and then after that, we'll just tell the people good night. And thank you guys for watching again. Please make sure to like, subscribe. I'll go ahead and throw down any social media Coach Josh would want me to share of his on there, even for possible recruits.
Swedes DC.
Tweets DC. I will include in the
Twitter.
description below. I'll include his Twitter. I'll include anything else I need on here. And yeah, again, thank you, Josh, for coming. Anything last things you want to say?
Thank you. Keep it real. Go Swedes. I don't know. I guess I'll sign the flag.
Sign off. So you choose where you want to sign.
I'm gonna
It's okay.
save the logo.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hell yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. See you guys on the next video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and go ahead and